See the time being, so 5, what we call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming tonight. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge the passing of Chief Nightingale, Gail's husband, last week. He was a chief for, I think, 24 years, 22. We lost somebody very special to the village. Neil was great to me growing up. It was Chief Nightingale. Obviously, he helped Gail out with all her community efforts. It was a very moving ceremony. We went to the service, and some of the people here did. It was very touching. Chief Nightingale did an unbelievable eulogy that had people in tears that just reflect back on how important, how Chief touched so many people and changed their lives. And how he brought up his sons, and it was very, very moving, and a big loss to the community, obviously to Gail, but again, our thoughts are with you, Gail. And,
thank you, Peter.
It was
Thank you.
okay. Any secretary's report? Any questions? Did I get an approval for the secretary's report?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Secretary's report is passed. Treasurer's report, now.
Okay, right now, our 3 accounts, our main checking account, we have $7,814.98. We have no outstanding obligation to bills or anything. Robert Smith Fund, which is that's the money which we use for, community activities, gifts, scholarships. We have $17,549.31. And it's up $910 for the year, so growing that thing. And finally, a savings account, money market fund, which we have is being invested in a Vanguard money market. $2,943.28. And so far last year made $103 in interest, so people complain about interest rates going up, but we found making some money off this thing. So between the 3 accounts, we have about $28,000.
Great. Any questions for Al? Get a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Al. Gail. OBPA report.
The OBPA annual breakfast meeting is scheduled for June 3rd at 8 o'clock at the Rihanna Club Seaview Room. Barnstable Town Manager Matt Ells will be our guest speaker. Election of OBPA officers and steering committee members will take place, as well as the announcement of the winner of the OBPA scholarship. Notices of this meeting will be sent out. Plans are being made for Village Day to be held Saturday, July 19th. We have received permission from the town to hold our parade. This is our 51st anniversary of Village Day. The theme of the parade is Garden Party. We received a grant of $500 from the town of Osterville Tourism Fund for the printing of the Osterville Directory map, which will be available in all the businesses within a few weeks. Extra copies will be available at the Osterville package store for any large gatherings. If you have a wedding or anything coming up, we're always happy to give out our brochure. Our spring cocktail party will be held at the chat room at Crosby's Yacht Yard on Tuesday, May 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. Sponsors are E.J. Jacksheimer Builder and E.J. Jacksheimer Landscaping. Invitations are in the mail. That's my report.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate it. Okay, town council's report, John.
Thanks, Pete. I don't know if some of you came to the meeting last night, which was the presentation of the long-range comprehensive plan by planning department, Jim Cuthbert. I want to give him some compliments because he's done a really fantastic job. It's been quite a 180 from our last planning department director. So I want to say that the LCP that is now before us is much more to the benefit of our village than previous LCPs. It's been changed along the way with some suggestions by myself and others. One of the things that they had in that plan was to change zoning in the middle of the village to allow higher density, higher stories, and also to allow within a half-mile radius of the center of the village. They also wanted to allow multifamily by right. And that was something that we had a big issue with in this community, and they've taken those out of the building. So the plan is much more palatable to us as a village, and I think compliments go to Mr. Cuffer and a number of others that were involved in that, especially this association and our members of our community. I also want to comment on Bob Schulte, who was from Centerville, was the chair of the ad hoc zoning committee and regulatory agreement committee. He's done a fabulous job. The ad hoc zoning and the ad hoc housing committee chairs will be presenting on May 15th with what they came up for as for what's going to happen, say, in downtown Hyannis especially, and some other changes there. And so if you're interested in that, come see that. ADUs will also be discussed fairly soon at town council. The state has mandated some changes to the ADU laws we had. One of the things we pushed for, and I pushed for originally when we adopted ADUs, is that if you have an ADU on your property, you have to reside on that property, and you can't rent both at the same time, both units at the same time. Well, the state overrode that, and now it's going to allow no owner occupancy, and you can rent both units. I think that's something that's it's just what the state has mandated. So we're looking to see what our possibilities are for adjusting that if possible. The problem with the ADUs is, like many policies that come out of Boston, it's one size fits for every community. And when we're talking about residences that probably 70% of our residences, when the sewer is done, will not be sewer. So you've got to wonder what's going to happen with the septic tanks and overcrowding and that kind of thing. So that's something we're concerned about. What else do I got? I think that's all I have tonight. If anybody's got any questions, I think.
On the ADUs, are there time limits on the rentals, or is it short term, long term?
Right now, it's a 12-month requirement that has to be for a 12-month lease or more. There is some kind under the ADU. The town lawyer looked at it, has some recommendations that have not come from the council quite yet. One of those, the recommendations to that, it would delete that sentence and allow those units to be rented for 32 days or more. ADU is considered 31 days or less as an ADU. At this point, when we put into our code is that it has to be year round, has to be 1 year lease. But there's a number of parties that are pushing that some of these units will be used for transient employees and that kind of stuff, and therefore they could rent them month to month. We would not like to, I personally would not like to see that done. That's one of the things that's coming up that we'll discuss and argue out in front of the council. I'd like to, the state allows you under their new law to if there is a community, let's just say a community need, overwhelming community need, that you can adjust those ADU regulations for us, how long somebody can stay in there. Okay, and we do have an overwhelming need in that our major concern is long-term housing here. Okay, there are concerns about short-term where people come in and work and they go out, but the major is that we don't have enough long-term 12-month or more rentals. And so I will be arguing that in front of the council, that the year-round is more important right for us now to bring those to help us out in long-term rentals. Get started.
Isn't there some tax implications that exist for when people are renting units? Aren't they supposed to report it to the town?
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, do they have to pay a tax to the town, or is the tax only to the state of Massachusetts, or is it both? And do people do it? And is it ever enforced?
Well, enforcement is always a problem here, and that's one of the bigger things we have on the agenda is the assistant town manager is now in front of the task force with the town employees and town department heads about how we're going to enforce our zoning laws here. Okay, and one of the things I'm gonna meet with him, Andy Clyburn, his name is, and see if we can speed that up in certain respects. There's a bunch of different things that are on the forefront now. One is home occupations, where we have a lot of places, not only in Hyannis, other places where contractors who are starting their businesses, especially like landscape and that kind of stuff, and builders, where they're doing it out of a home. Okay, you're allowed to have a home occupation, but you're not allowed to have equipment in the yard. You're not allowed to do a number of things. Everything has to be contained in the home. And many people are taking advantage of that and not following those rules. So one of the things we're working on is new regulations or existing regulations being enforced to make those businesses actually find a contractor paid to actually use use it as a contractor. If they cannot, there are laws about how many commercial vehicles you can park at a property right now. It's one. How many trailers you can park? There's one. There's one unregistered vehicle that you can put in your park, but the rest of it's being, some places they're going overboard. So we're trying to reel that in right now, and that's coming up very soon. What was the other question?
Well,
Real estate tax.
many people in this village rent their home for 1 week or a month during the summer for huge amounts of money.
Yes,
And maybe I don't know, I guess my question is, aren't they supposed to pay some kind of a tax to the town and or the state?
yes,
And
all,
is that ever done? Because I don't,
it is
you
done.
know, I think I know a lot of
It
people.
is done.
rent houses
Some,
and-
there are some scofflaws that the town is trying to enforce those and finding out when they're posted on these sites that allow Airbnb or VRBO, when they're not registered with the state or the town. The town makes you register any rental properties. Short-term rentals need to be registered. And also the state has mandated that a total of 17.85% tax can be levied on those units, depending what the town decides to do. So we are levying those taxes to a certain degree from here. I don't know if it's the whole 17.85 and some of it goes to the state, vice versa, and that kind of stuff. But that's what's allowed right now. They must register and they must pay their taxes. One of the things that will be coming, and it's one of the items that I've been involved with for years now, is short-term rentals. And that went through the town in 2020, but no action was taken because it was a split vote. I think the public now, there's a realization that it's no longer, these are nuisances alone. They're actually taking stock out of our homes for year-round rentals that we need to have those this year round. So we're gonna put regulations that incentivize people to rent their homes year round. And that has not taken shape yet. Got a bunch of ideas. I think one of the ideas would be most effective would say you can rent short term if that is your primary tax residence. I think that's the most important thing that would stop a lot of people who I don't mind buying a second home. If you have a second home, you buy your home here, you leave it vacant, or many people can't really afford that second home without renting it short term. And that's part of the problem. Okay, so I think it would loosen up the real estate market if we had more regulations that disallowed people from monetizing those homes to the high degree they're doing, and have some kind of a regulation that would incentivize or cut down the ability for people to do that on a year-round basis.
So
So
I
you were
would just interject.
Yeah.
So the primary tax, if you rent part of your house for I think it's over 2 weeks a year, you owe income taxes to the IRS and to the state. The town levies short-term rental taxes, but I'm not sure how short-term is defined. I'm not sure if the town gets any tax for a year-round rental, but the state and the federal government you definitely owe taxes to those two entities.
Actually, the 31 days or less is considered a short-term rental. And those taxes are paid by the renter.
Right,
Income taxes, as you said, are paid by the landlord.
right. And then if it's a 3-month rental, the taxes go to the IRS and to the state, but not to the town. Is that correct?
I believe so,
Yeah.
at least he doesn't pay.
Yeah, I'm trying to respond to Joe's question.
I'm glad we have.
But you can rent it the week, you can rent any day.
I live in, this, the Osterville Village condominium, and some of those units are rented for a year. And, so the owner is getting, the rent,
Getting income,
but I believe that they're supposed to be paying taxes to the town.
yeah,
Well, not, not their own income tax, but for that rental unit, they're supposed to be paying a tax to the town and even
I'm
the state.
not sure of that. I don't think that's the case, but I'm not certain.
Well, I will say that when the CWMP, the wastewater plan, the taxes we receive for those are going directly to the CWMP. So that's what the town has stated. So if we're not making any taxes, it doesn't make any sense for that. So I'm sure we have a certain amount of that tax coming through town. Right. Any other questions? Please.
I think what you've been discussing about town tax and certain regulations put upon the rental. I think it would reflect to you're changing the bylaws of the town. I think by modifying the bylaws of the town, that will make your case more firm. And then everybody would be subjected to pay the town tax, besides the income tax and state tax.
Can I just add something about the ADU thing? This is just going to the state imposing this, like, one size fits all across the entire Commonwealth. When the ADU was last up before the town council, some folks did some research and saw that every Cape Cod town except one adopted their ADU bylaw, and all of them said, you'll live in one and rent the other, no matter which one. But the point of the ADU is, have a secondary property at your home and rent it out, as opposed to this rent both is basically like a duplex, right? Where an investor can come in and sort of outbid people for a single family home counting on 2 rental income streams. But all Cape Cod towns except one did what Barnstable did, and now the state is flipping that. And then the other real thing to keep an eye on the ADU is the parking, John, I think,
Yes.
right? Which is, the state is now saying it doesn't matter whether you're in Lowell or Great Barrington or Katuitt. All your ADU tenants can park in the street. Which is crazy for a town like this with our windy little streets and curb cuts and all that. So that's just a real issue, and it's good to hear that you're trying to push back to make it sort of site appropriate.
Yeah, we'd like to have, I think we're working on a town council letter to the state to ask that we look at some of the provisions of that ADU law. Whether that'll make any difference or not, at one point. One thing is interesting about that. The ADUs law says that if you are within a half mile of a bus station and you have an ADU, you do not have to provide parking spot for that. Now, a bus station, what is a bus station? Well, a bus station is any embarkation point onto a bus, which means every bus stop is an embarkation point. And that's the issue. So if you look at all the bus stops, that would include a large percentage of the town that would say, I'm up on Tower Hill, I want to put an ADU in, but I don't need to have that person have a parking spot. Now, most people that I know in this area, the public transportation is not adequate for them to do a number of things they'd like to do, like go to work and on time. So that would push some of these cars out into the street. And we have snow removal, we have granite curbs. I just don't know how that would work for a small town. It will work in a big town, so that's what we're talking about. It's the ADU law that the state put down that doesn't seem to, one size doesn't really fit all.
May I ask one more question? With all the properties that will remain on septic, the town still maintains control over the number of bedrooms allowed on that property, correct? So does that restrict like if I'm on septic and I'm zoned for, or approved for 3 bedrooms, I can't just build an accessory dwelling unit, right? That would add 2 bedrooms, correct? All right.
But this town has this I think that the town has talked to the state and the state has talked to the town about the septic requirements. But there is a requirement, or what they also put in the ADU law is that you can put as many bedrooms in as you want. Now, from what I understand, they have to be 900 square feet or less.
Right.
Plus a kitchen and a bathroom. So if you put, 4 bedrooms in a 900 square foot ADU, each bedroom is allowed 2 people after the first and second bedroom. After the third bedroom, there's only 1 person allowed. So you could possibly have in a 4-bedroom ADU, you could have like 6 adults, or 5 adults. It's crazy. Then it doesn't count children.
But the septic restricts the
Septic
number.
restrictions, the town does not.
If you're
apply
on
septic.
sewer, if you're on sewer,
Or
but
sewer,
if you're on septic still, it restricts the number of bedrooms you can have on that property. So in a way, the town maintains control
Yes.
over such properties, right? Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, John. Thanks for all the work that you do. Obviously, you've been ongoing. Old business, John talked about the LCP the other night. I know, Heather was there, Bruce was there. Do you have any comments on?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, I suppose, quickly is that, the plan has shifted from its initial construct that mirrored the Cape Cod Commission in its primary ways. And I think that reflects not just the views of this village, but really, when you look at the surveys of town-wide, right? What the people actually want is different from what the Cape Cod Commission has wanted by way of single-family zoning and not ripping up villages. I mean, who's ever heard of somebody saying, let's redevelop cute little Centerville village, right? Like, no one has ever said that, right? So I think the changes are conforming to the public generally, and I think that the real issue that came up last night was understandably folks from Hyannis who were feeling the pinch of overdevelopment, and I personally think we should all be supporting what every village wants for themselves and really standing with those folks from Hyannis who have a real problem.
Yeah,
Good point.
great.
Thanks for saying that, Heather. I think that's really important. What changed this LCP to the advantage of our village or not to the detriment? Was everybody here that's been involved in this for a while. We've been talking about this, the Village Association been talking about it for many years. And it was finally the critical mascot and said, okay, we're not gonna accept this. And with the new planning director coming in with an open mind and no plans already decided, really changed that. So we should give us all some credit for doing that. We're trying to protect what we have here, and also we've got to look for areas where we can put some housing in the character and the size and density that we can do in this village if possible. We don't have a lot of land, maybe 1 or 2 spots, but we'll be looking to maybe do that. We can find something. So it's important to say that thank you for everybody's done here, because we've been yelling at the town now for I don't know how long, and it really has come around to our do the best for our village. So that, wait a minute, this is Pete's thing. So that's,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I guess what worries me about this whole issue, is the Cape Cod Commission wanted this to be our scenario, but it really comes from above. It's like the Pope in Rome and the local clergy. It's the state government, the town and Cape Cod Commission, correct? That they wanted that, and do it, guys.
It's a mystery to me where the Cape Cod Commission gets its direction. It's certainly not from the people.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember
That's what I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's what worries me.
a couple of years ago, I remember asking the previous planning director, if we don't abide by the Cape Cod Commission's, plan for us, what will they hold over us? What will happen? And, the answer was, well, let me put it this way. If we go along with them, what do we get out of it? That's a better way to put it. And the answer was technical assistance. So it's, and I remember the room kind of chuckling. We don't get any money from the Cape Cod Commission to implement their ideas. We don't get anything but their so-called technical assistance. And I'm so glad to hear that they can sit in wherever they sit, make plans for us that are rejected by the people who live here. So I think that's the way things should happen.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Well, the major difference, of course, is here we have a town council where people are elected. And the Cape Cod Commission does not.
Yes,
Right.
and who are they?
So
Yeah.
if we disagree with something that the Cape Cod Commission suggests, there is no recourse to, change the representative. Because they're not elected to the
by the governor, right, Mark? Bruce, by the
I
governor?
think it's by local.
I'm sorry.
Like more. Wasn't there some conversation or there have been previous attempts to eliminate the Cape Cod Commission?
It should,
A while ago.
it's redundant.
Let's do it, Susie.
Once we get out of your house.
They're back and raring it out.
Actually, you laugh when you say things like that, but, what's happened lately is a perfect example of when you push back, people have no choice but to listen.
Mhm, yeah.
And, there have been some major victories in this that would not have happened.
Yeah.
If people didn't, make the response, in some cases over and over. So,
Absolutely.
The Cape Cod Commission actually retained a consultant and a lawyer to do model bylaws, to implement the stuff in its draft plan and paid these people before it even put the plan out for public comment. So tell me whether and to what extent they're listening to what the people have to say. They'd already written like an $80,000 check. I have the little record, yeah, she did, yeah. We got the receipt, yeah.
If you look at this, they are very impressive, very extensive. But the problem is they tend to focus on what they call stakeholders, which are people that might have an invested interest in what they're trying to do, whether they're in the real estate business or developers or whatever. And those who are in the housing committees and things like that, they're invited to participate. But the folks in this room are left out. I remember at our annual meeting, I asked how many people here were consulted for the Cape Cod Commission. They drafted all these plans, and of course, no one they say in. So, there's kind of a disconnect there that, maybe, could be corrected. But now, it's important that if you feel that way, you make yourself heard.
Oh, yeah.
So would anybody know as to when Cape Cod Commission was established, number one?
By
Number
Dukakis.
two, other members incumbent, how long they've been holding their position. And I think it's time for us to sort of raise a flag that we, as residents in Cape Cod, should be part of the Cape Cod Commission. Because it's in the best interest of us, which would sort of improve the lifestyle by being a member of the Cape Cod Commission.
So I think
They're,
one of
they're
the-
entrenched, aren't they?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is that people in general, this is a sweeping statement, have no idea who the Cape Cod Commission is or what they do. They do have a very good website. I would encourage people to go and check it out, because at least you'll have a better idea of the things that they're addressing, some of their, things they're advocating for, et cetera. But, that's the same thing, is that a lot of things happen in our local government, in the village or in the town, that kind of fly under the radar. It's not that people don't pay attention, it's just that they're busy, they're not aware. And, how long have we been trying to get the playground done? 20 years now, and, every time we put that on an OBA meeting, people are like, what's this? I haven't heard about this, and it's been going on since 2006, so. I just think that, it would be to everyone's benefit, take a look at the Cape Cod Commission websites and learn a little bit about it. Maybe we can, address our concerns with them.
I think one other thing to remember is that the Cape Cod Commission originally, I believe, was put together to mitigate growth of the Cape.
By Dukakis.
And it's doing the exact opposite right now, so I think they've lost their that's their way, so I wouldn't be, it hasn't talked about the Cape Cod Commission being disbanded. And it's been tried, I think, before, but it hasn't really gone through, so
Peter, maybe you can nominate them as the subcommittee.
Yeah.
Let's have it where it's on.
No, can I just underscore the lack of public stuff there, because I will join your committee. I was on the Safe Twin Brooks board, and when the commission was putting out a decision to approve turning that last piece of open space in Hyannis into a whole bunch of barracks, right, that would look like a development from Atlanta. They put out a decision, I think it was either a Thursday or Friday night, and it was like, I don't know, 1,500 pages for a meeting on Tuesday. Now that works if you're the developer and have a law firm on retainer and throw it to a bunch of associates to read it over the weekend and put in their stuff. For people, it's utterly impossible. And representatives of our town governments are sitting on that commission, working in that process and not saying, well, what are you doing, right? So I feel it's from a process point of view, it's like absolutely positively fundamentally broken from a public perception. Mark Ailes changed out the Barnstable representative. Kathy Ledeck is now representing this town. She's sharp and cares about the people. So at least there's one person there. You know?
And that took a lot of pressure from myself and others to change the person who was there, who's been in town government for forever, been a town councilor, but it was not looking out for our best interests. At least they thought.
Something we can talk about at the annual meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Doctor?
I thought the town manager, who one time when he was here, said that the town, the Cape Cod Commission has no authority over the town. And that we don't have to do anything, they say.
That's true.
Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yeah, but that wasn't the stance of the former planning director.
Right.
And the planning director had a lot of back and forth with the Cape Cod Commission. And I think the attitude was, we need a regional housing strategy that overrides home rule from our town. And that was one of the things they were working very hard on, to basically take land use out of the town of Barnstable and the other villages and dictate that land use to us. And
Why do we pay any attention to them at all? They don't have any authority.
that's what I said.
Yes.
I mean,
That's what I
really,
said.
Yes.
I mean, why do we constantly worry about them and talk about them and say, well, the Cape Cod Commission is, the Cape Cod Commission, that's, I mean, you know.
Well, if you're doing
the
something,
heck with them.
if you're doing something unpopular in our town, in planning or whatever, and you can say, well, the Cape Cod Commission told us to do it, and they say, well, you're the planning department, so nobody has to take political responsibility for it. And that's what was happening, in my opinion, with the Cape Cod Commission as for the housing regulations they were trying to push on us. Right? There was a back and forth using that as a way to sort of push some of the stuff off the town council's plate, which is our responsibility to use. Because they didn't think they could get some of the things they wanted passed, and they couldn't. So they figured that they have somebody else tell us. And it doesn't make any sense, but that's what was happening, so.
You're right, though, but both the last housing production plan and the initial LCP, take the essential elements, they line up with exactly what the Cape Cod Commission, it just depends on.
Their mission.
Maybe, some reminders that, hey, you're straying from what you were originally formed to
They
do.
clearly have.
Yeah,
35 employees,
yeah,
and maybe 3 of them are over 30.
right, yeah, no, I've been on the website, so. But I mean, I think, it's important to try to be diplomatic when you approach these things. You don't want to create enemies where they don't need to be created.
Great discussion tonight on that. Any other questions on the commission? To be continued, which is great. I think, again, we push back and we organize to find out what power we have. Agree 100%. Okay, on old business, Chuck scholarship application, any updates?
Yes, so our deadline was May 1, Friday, May 2, Friday, and we have 4 applications.
Nice.
All Osterville residents, 3, I think, Barnstable High School, and 1 from Cape Cod Academy.
Excellent.
So, I have on the committee, from the meeting that we had, in March, I have Suzanne Conley. Cindy had volunteered, I think, to be on the committee as well. I've got Bruce, Nancy, and John Crow. Is there anyone that I missed that is gonna be on it? No?
That's good.
Okay, so what I'll do is, I have your email addresses, I think except for Cindy, so I'll get yours before I leave tonight. So I'll send out a link, tomorrow, and then I'll send out another email with a password to that link. That'll contain all of the applications and a couple of maps and supporting materials, transcripts and the like. So I'll send it out, and I think we probably should plan on a meeting fairly soon. I don't know what works for everyone. If I can get them out tomorrow, maybe we can meet, next week.
What is the timeframe?
Well, we usually invite the recipient to our breakfast in June. So we have time to do that, but I think we wanna maybe, notify them, let's say by, May 20 anyway, as to what the decision is to do. So we can invite them and their parents to the breakfast. So I don't know if we'll have time to notify the high school, because they have an awards night. Usually it's pretty early, coming up soon, but we'll do our best. So, I don't know whether Tuesday night next week would work for everyone. or-
Yes.
Does it work?
Yeah, works for me.
That's what it is.
Suzanne?
And we have some space here, we get some space here in the library.
Yeah, because I got the big band here Tuesday night, so
Okay.
I have music and.
All right, so, I'll send it out, circulate it tomorrow. Everybody good. Okay,
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it.
and I should say, special thank you to Nancy, she helped me get the I meant to mention that, she helped me get the application circulated out this year. We go to, for those of you in the audience, we send them out to Barnstable High, Cape Cod Academy, Sturgis, St. John's, or Pope John, whatever it is, Pope John. Pope John, okay. And then and also to, Tabor. We did Tabor Academy. Both of the vocational schools. Belmont Academy, so we started circulating around. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Okay, new business. I'd like to, start with, it's the pleasure to introduce Chris Joyce. Known him for a long time, very successful businessman. I'm sure most everyone has seen his truck. If you haven't, then you haven't been around here. He employs, I get up to 140 people, but how many, Chris, are we up to? I knew I was off by a little bit on that, which is amazing. He's been involved with the community, including the Barnstable sports programs, the formerly previously on the Barnstable school committee. And all around, I would say an all around exceptional individual. I heard last fall that Chris had purchased a historic mobile service station. Growing up with the Hardings, family station. In my opinion, and I think everyone here, I could not think of a better person to take over, revive and restore this property than Chris Joyce. True professional, true family man. And without further ado, Chris is going to give a presentation.
Thank you, Peter. First of all, good evening, everyone. And thank you for having me. So, about 2 years ago, I was in the market for a piece of real estate in the Mid-Cape area, and I looked at a couple things that really didn't fit, and then a friend of mine who's with us tonight, Cliff Carroll, brought this property to me. And at first, I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. And then I remembered when I first got in business, Mr. Harding used to sell me the gas, and they had the Model A's and, the old school mentality, and it got like romantic to me, like excited. So I got, it took a long time. We finally agreed on a price. I had to do a lot of environmental testing and whatnot, which took months and months and months. We finally closed on it in June of last year. I obviously never doing a project like this scale or this size, to get to this stage where we're at tonight has taken me almost a year between the number of plans that I had to get together. We had some unofficial meetings with the town with some direction on what they were looking for. And so that culminated to get to where we are tonight. We did meet, I had an informal a meeting today at 2:00 with site plan review. I was there with both my engineers and my attorney to present the case, and we got staff feedback and have to get some information back to them on, but all in all, the plans were pretty close. So what is my plan, right? So obviously I never thought I was gonna be in a gas station operator, but I'm going to be, so.
It's the romance.
Yeah. Let's hope I say that in 2 years. So, we're gonna revitalize, I'm gonna start with the front building. So basically, we're gonna keep the building the same. It's gonna be the exact same footprint. We're gonna put new windows, new doors, new siding. I'm gonna put a cupola on the top. And proposed a shingled canopy for when it rains and whatnot. It'll be a full station, like when Mr. Harding and the Harding family owned it. That's my old, when I think of this, that's what I want to do, is bring it back. It'll be a full service gas station. There will no longer be a repair shop. It's gonna look like it's a repair shop. I'm gonna have a glass door, but there will no longer be a repair shop. So we will have the two main pumps that'll be brand new, and we'll have the side pump on the side road, and side entrance by the fire department, which will be diesel as well as regular gas. And then I would like to open a small country store inside. So where the repair shop is now, it's all open when you walk in, and I have the rendering of what that would look like on the inside. The two sets of plans I have with me, one is all the architectural plans, and the second set of plans is all the engineering, the work with I have John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering as my local engineer, and then we hired a company out of New Hampshire that just deals with gas station convenience store type work, where they design the pumps, the new tanks, the everything that would be related to constructing the new tanks and the pumps and whatnot. And so I had those two working together, and then my good friend John Kenny is my attorney, who's working with me on the permitting side of this process. So that's the first building. The second building, which is the current repair, which is the current inspection business, will stay. John is committed to stay with me for a while to transition out. So our proposal is to re-side that building, re-roof that building, put heat in that building, and put a TV where the waiting station is and whatnot. So that building will get completely refurbished with new garage doors, new windows, lighting, electrical, and anything you would need to have a building that's workable in today's day and age. I'm proposing the front building, where they do the inspections, is probably, it's been here since the 20s. It's got an old it's got an old stone and brick foundation. There's a building behind it that obviously was an addition years later. The roof is caved in on that building. I am proposing to tear that building off, but take that 1,575 square feet and put a new structure down here. So I want to tear this part of the building off, keep the antique looking building in the front, and then build a new building here. The old Gambrell looking building where they had the offices for the midway garage and the old oil delivery business, I would like to rehab that back into offices, and I would like, one of the things I'm going to propose is I would like to move one of my companies, which is called Always Green of Cape Cod, which is a lawn, tree and shrub fertilization business, to this location. That's why I started looking for a piece of property a couple of years ago. So I would like that to be their offices, and then these two buildings would be their main warehouse storage facilities. This little studio apartment is gonna be occupied by the manager of the gas station, which will also oversee the whole property. So he'll be managing the gas station and the property for me. There's a very large duplex, 2-bedroom duplex in the way back. I will put two families that work for me will live in that. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna be able to house a couple employees with their kids. I will have a studio apartment for the manager of the gas station, and I would like to move my company, Always Green of Cape Cod, to occupy this office and the warehouses. And obviously, we need parking in order to do that. As everyone knows, or anyone that's driven through here, I mean, the place, nothing's been done since the Hardings sold it 20+ years ago. You know, everything has structural issues, roofs, the septic has been condemned, the whole 9 yards. So our proposal is to get rid of all the overhead wires, all new electric service, 2 transformers. Right now, the water comes into the gas station and it was fed to all the other buildings, and every time you get anything under 20 degrees, it freezes. We bring all new water in, and we would bring all new gas in. We would re-roof, re-side, and redo, you know, all the buildings would get redone. But at the end of the day, the only big change would be tearing this 1,575 square feet off the backside of this and repurposing it. The building as a whole, the property as a whole, is gonna look like that old iconic, you know, property that was done in the turn of the century. You know, from everything we found in the research that John Kenny has helped me with, and Cliff and a number of other people, they think that, and people here might know better than I do, but they say it dates back to the late 20s or the 30s, and there's still an old barn in the back where they had horse stables and whatnot. I mean, Bruce gave me some information the other day, so, you know, no, we can't tell exactly how long it's been here, but I have a few old pictures and whatnot.
So Chris, one of the things I would add is that it's an inspection station building.
Yeah.
It's great that you're preserving that, because that was once a stagecoach stop.
Right.
And I think that building goes all the way back to like the 1880s.
Yeah.
So it's good to save that.
So that's my plan. You know, I've got my blueprints and my engineered plans and my renderings. And, you know, I'm in the beginning, today was my first day of permitting, right? So it's gonna take me a while to get it permitted. It's gonna take me 4 months to do from the time I get a permit to put new tanks in the ground, new pumps. I gotta repave the whole place. So, you know, I'm obviously thought I'd be a lot further ahead than I am, but we will be open. I'm hoping in the next 6 months, once I get through the permitting stage. As I told Bruce and Peter and John and other people, I wanna get the front building done first so I can operate and start making some revenue. And then, work on the other buildings. You know, I did get a roof and siding permit, so I've already rehabbed the 2 existing warehouses. I did got new siding, new roof, brand new garage doors, brand new pedestrian doors. We cleaned them. I mean, what we took out of this property, we took over 50 dump truck loads of junk that had been dumped there for a number of years. And we've taken dumpster after dumpster, of just junk. So that's my presentation. I'm here for questions.
So this is, I was gonna say, it's a very serious question, but it's the only gas station in town where I can adjust the air in my tires, but you still have the air.
I will, but I'm gonna move it. Right now, it's in a horrible location because you have to pull it in.
Yeah, you have to back
And
it.
in my plan, I wanna, people, if you're going to the back of this building, you're gonna pull in and turn out here.
Yeah.
You're gonna come behind the building and turn out. I'm gonna move the air station, and it will be free, it won't be, it's broken right now. It's going to the back of the building, but it will stay.
Thank you.
I just want to commend you. I know, this is such a community-based and history-based and Osterville-based plan, so, I mean, it looks great, and I'm really glad you're preserving all of this, so congratulations. But my question is, the lawn service, it's green,
So I own, obviously, my large company
Right.
is Joyce Landscaping.
Yeah.
We have, our parent company is what's called the Joyce Company.
Yes.
Underneath the Joyce Company, they have Joyce Landscaping. I have Always Green at Cape Cod, I have
Always Green.
Grassroots Irrigation, and a couple, I have this other company which owns all the real estate, Joyce Realty Acquisition. And I have another company that owns all the vehicles.
so always green. My question is, would you be expecting customers to go into that space? Or that's simply for
It's
operational,
operation.
all operational?
All
That was- Yeah,
operational.
because it's tight in there.
Yeah, it will just, there's no reason for them to come in. And
Okay.
today's, they pay, 90% of people pay the bill online and they mail it,
Right, well,
so.
congratulations,
Yeah, thank you.
Chris.
Yeah, that's great.
Chris, John?
Chris, I think you should tell when you come into the station, you come around the back of the building to go out. You're gonna have, it's gonna be a small country store there, so you're gonna need parking. You've got some spaces there for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry, thank you, John. So right now, you'll pull in to get your gas, you'll pull in this way, like you always have, you pull out this way. But if you're going to go get your car inspected, instead of coming back out this exit, you're gonna go back, that's a radius, and you'll pull out this way to get back onto the road. We already have the curb cut now, we're just going to run this out here, so there's a secondary end exit. With this will be the parking for the store will be behind the building. John, Mark,
Chris, I just want to say, Bruce and I and all the people I talked to, honestly, have been waiting for that to happen, and I want to thank you. The biggest thing is the environmental concern we had. And if Bruce is on board, I'm on board, because he lives right behind me. He's been watching the green sludge go by his house, so that's can't help but clean up that whole property.
and then like, one of the things that came up today in the site plan review meeting was there's no stormwater management on this property at all. Like, there's nothing. There's one catch basin. I mean, if you see these plans, we have the most extensive, it's crazy what we're gonna do to capture the water in a number of different locations, and it'll be grease water separators for the gas station area, and that's why I had two different engineers. One, the local engineer that understood, the environmental of because it's got some conservation in the back, and who John O'Day, I think, is an excellent engineer. But we brought in the secondary engineer that just dealt with gas stations.
Right, thank you.
Just, I don't know if any of the town processes you have to go through have like a public process thing, I think if you wanted letters and support and all this kind of stuff, I bet you'd get a whole bunch.
Thank you. And we're gonna get, after our site plan review meeting, we're gonna get staff feedback. It'll tell us what our next direction is. There was 10 people, I think, today that could chime in. Most of it went very streamlined. We have a couple things that we have to get more information back, and then we're waiting from for the building inspector to say our next direction. So I appreciate you saying that, and if I go in that direction, if we end up going to further permitting, I will definitely reach out. So, any other, John?
Hey, Chris, this has been used for home heating oil and all kinds of stuff for years, gas. And you cleared out a lot of this side of that. You dug, I don't know how much, when we went back there, it was like 5 or 6 feet worth of grade.
So way back here, in this area, from the back of the duplexes up to a split rail fence that is right here, we dropped it. So there had been so much stuff over the last 10 or 15 years that have been dumped there. That's what we hauled the 50 dump trucks out, which was bricks and bottles and planting containers and a number of other things. And in some areas it was 5 feet tall. So if you look at it right now, where there's a cut from where we are to where the stuff had been dumped was over 5 feet in some areas.
From my understanding that the oil trucks used to go to the building that is now used for inspection or just behind it. Do you find any oil products anywhere else in the?
We did a phase 1 environmental test, and we did a phase 2 environmental test. There was a couple areas way in the back, we found some that got excavated and hauled out. But we did test all these areas. I mean, there's, from a DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, there's a rating and a scale of what is acceptable. There was some traces in some areas, but nothing that would have required from the reports and the consultants that we would have. There was one little area and that was it. Everything else met the DEP requirements that I needed to take. You know, first of all, this came back and there was a ton of cleanup. I would not have bought the property because then I'm opening myself up to a lot of liability. So
Brownfields.
we did phase 1 where we did start to find some things, and that's why we went to the next level of phase 2 for the bigger environmental testing.
So basically you've cleaned up the lot and back and it goes right up against some swampy area
Yeah.
back in there that goes into North Bay.
Right here is a fence that I think the conservation required the former owner to put up as a demarcation. And so basically we've cleared, I mean, there was down trees, there was trees on buildings. I mean, we've done tremendous tree work, excavation, cleaning. So basically what I've done since I bought it is clean the place. I basically emptied every building. I took the piles of junk, the down trees, the whatnot. I mean, I still have a lot to do, but that's what I've done since June is work on that.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So would it be necessary to, use a French drain so that if there is a runoff for the rainwater?
Yeah. We have them in a number, there's throughout this location, we don't have exactly French drains, but in this location, right here, we actually are gonna berm up the grade to push the water. So any water that comes this way is gonna get forced to 2 catch basins that are. If I could show you afterwards, I have them on this other plan, and we're forcing the water into the ground.
So the reason is because, I mean, the reason I brought up this issue is that majority of the soil is sandy.
Yeah.
So it's source of water.
Yeah.
So it's very to you.
Here in 3 locations, we have leach pits where it's capped, you know, so we have surface drains that then go to leach pits.
Peter, when we met on Saturday, Bruce and John, you mentioned some contaminated material that you took out. Or
Yeah, in the way back.
how much on that was
It
this?
was a couple of truckloads.
Okay, all right, so there was, okay.
What was it contaminated by?
It was like an oil base material.
It had to go off Cape to Taunton, you said, or where?
When the Tonto extend takes it to New Hampshire.
Process, okay. No, we had a case before where there was some denial that there was any spill back there. I went to the Board of Health at one point, and they couldn't find it, but that confirms that there was in fact.
Interesting.
Illegally dumping oil.
Well, it doesn't have to be illegal. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, 100 years ago, they probably didn't have insurance, right?
But that was.
Oh, it wasn't 100 years ago.
It was more
no.
recent.
Yeah.
It was more recent, if you know what I mean.
Chris, can you tell people about the 2 tanks in the back by the very rear of the property and the container that you're gonna use to?
So at the rear of this building, I want to build a vault, and I want to take, we do our lawn care program through granular application and liquid. Thanks for bringing that up. So we have this exact same setup at 68 Flint Street, which is our main facility. So I'm not gonna move that one because it was built in place when we take the tanks out. So what you do is you build a concrete box on you pour an oversized slab, You build a concrete box out of cinder block. And you then, that company comes in and sprays this impermeably coating on it. So if these two tanks, for some reason, gave way, a fitting gave way, everything gets captured in from these tanks in this reservoir area. And then that reservoir gets pumped into this building. And then you just pull the truck in and you fill your liquid. So we do half of our applications through a liquid feed. We do half of our applications from a granular feed. And, you know, the questions came up, well, it's fertilizer and all this. We're so regimented by the state and the federal government on what we can use to apply. You know, if you're following UMass Extension's best management practices, which I heard a lot of talk about the Cape Cod Commission earlier here. Well, the Cape Cod Commission at one point was trying to set a fertilizer guideline for the whole Cape Cod. That didn't happen, and it's set up by each individual Board of Health is really to oversee the fertilizer applicators. We all need licenses through the pesticide bureau, but everything that we're doing is so highly regulated. If you're buying correctly and you're following UMass's best management practices, it's a clean process between the granular, and it's the same thing that I put on my lawn and house that my kids have been raised in. So that question has come up a couple of times. I have the same setup at Flint Street with the tanks and the grain, you know, how we bring the material. Our granular material comes in on a pallet, it's wrapped, the bags are double plastic bags, they load into the truck. You put them into the spreader, and at the end of the day, you take all those bags, they go into one bag and you put it into the dumpster. So that's the fertilizer. There's other questions.
Just want to thank you again for making a significant investment in the town, which you work and raise your kids. That's great. That's thank you for change. And how about for the country store, a rebirth of Charlie's perhaps?
Well, I mean,
Charlie's at Joyce's.
yeah, so it's gonna be, so it was Midway Garage forever. We're gonna call it Midway Gas and Diesel. Trying to stay with what the Hardings had. That's the old, my architect put that on the old sign. We're gonna put like a nicer, but it's mid with the hyphen way and then gas and diesel underneath. My envision for the store is, you could get bottled water, milk, candy, we'll have some penny candy.
Penny candy.
Things, whatever. I mean, my whole goal is someone comes and pumps their gas, they get a cup of coffee, they grab it, a donut, and spend a few dollars and, and that's the, I mean, the gas business as a whole is not, you're not gonna, I'm not going to Hawaii every year selling gasoline, but if you have gasoline, the store, the inspection business, and I can have Always Green as a tenant, it works, right? And it also works because I'll buy 25% of the gas, right? So with the pro forma that I've done, I'm saying every one of you in this building to get your inspections done there and buy the gas.
Right.
But it also works where I'll be the largest customer.
Right.
So that'll, that's the other way this works in the big picture.
I'm curious, I think I know the answer to this. Have you considered putting in car chargers?
I am. So I've said to these gentlemen on Friday, we will have at least one car charger.
Really?
So that, and the whole idea is bring them in, they can go to the store, they can go for a walk, we're so close to, I think it'd be a great place for a car. I know they have one at the Wimpy's parking lot, we'll be on the other end of town, but we are going to have it.
Just one though.
Well, I just don't have a lot
Yeah, just have a room.
of space, so we may put two. I don't, right now, I have a plan for one, that doesn't mean we may not have one, but yeah, good question, we are gonna do that.
I just want to thank Cliff Carroll for putting all this together.
Right.
Thank you. That's great, Chris. I think the consensus, I mean, again, you're the guy, this is like fantastic for the
Yeah.
village of Osterville. I'm hoping you might be able to help us with a fields and playground coming up, but, no, seriously, that's best thing that, could happen up there, so
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Any other questions for Chris?
I just want to reiterate the same. This has been a problem property for a little while. So it is great to see the time and the effort and the care you're putting into it to keep it a village landmark and give it another life.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And also cleaning up what's been there before. So it's very important in that respect. So thank you.
One question, are your trucks mainly gonna use that separate aisle, or are they gonna be under the canopy?
No, well, the separate aisle where it was just diesel.
Yeah.
Is now gonna be able to be diesel, super regular, and that's if a truck and a trailer comes in. And the other thing, which is the two tanks, I'm learning all this,
Yeah.
those two tanks are too close together. And the reason was because they kept bringing people, they kept driving in here. Those tanks are gonna get spread out 8 more feet, so that it even elongates that a little bit further, so it'll easily, you'll be able to get cars in there better.
Okay, because, sometimes early in the morning, you wanna get gas,
Yeah.
and you got 5 or 6
No.
of your trucks in there, and.
Now, I'm not saying we're gonna try to do as many on the side, but I'm not saying it's gonna be perfect. In a perfect world, if there's no one on the side, we're gonna direct as many vehicles to any larger truck or trailer. But we're also elongating the new pumps, which is really what I'm being told, but this place is so old that didn't have it.
Yeah.
So that 8 feet should make a huge difference.
Great, great. Any other questions for Chris? Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last is public comment. Any other items you want to talk about? We have a great meeting tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn? I move. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah.